I'm in
I
Scotland,
Oh.
sorry
of
about
all
that.
places.
So this morning I saw the film again, and
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking about all the things which Nikhil and I talked about,
Mm-hmm.
and it's been a month and a half since we decided to watch this film for today. Uh,
Uh-huh.
but I know this film has affected Nikhil personally to a great degree.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I've been holding off on that conversation. I wanted to hear his thoughts on the film with everybody in the discussion. And this morning I watched the film, and I could sense what Nikhil might be talking about. And I thought maybe, just maybe, I should email him, and I should email Matt and see if he has time to come in for 5 minutes to say hi. And I emailed him what would be midnight in New York, I think, right? And it's amazing that you found time to be here. I'm so glad. We're all very lucky that you're here. And
Well, it was nice of you to reach out. I always appreciate when people take the time to do that. So, yeah, I was happy to call in.
thank you so much.
Just give me 2 seconds. I'll go somewhere a bit more silent.
Are you guys all in the same city?
Yes, we are.
Uh,
Which city are you in?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Not all of us.
Oh, okay.
Some of us stay in Bangalore,
Uh-huh.
in Karnataka, and one of us stay in Mumbai,
Uh-huh.
and I think that's about it.
Oh, cool. So do you get together on like a weekly basis or monthly?
Yes, we do.
every weekend, every weekend.
Every weekend.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's very cool.
So
How long
Ni-
have you been doing this group?
It's been 6 months so
Oh,
far.
nice. A good pandemic kind of thing to do.
right.
Stay in touch with everybody.
True.
Nikhil, do you want to talk about why this film is so special to you, and
Yes,
how we ended
absolutely.
up here?
Absolutely.
Okay,
So
let's go.
I walk a lot, and to see how a city might be a character all on its own, and to look at various sections of the city just transform with every street. It was something very refreshing, and it changed the way I started to look at my own city. Every time I cross a street, or every time I get from one street to the other, I think about the immense history one particular street has. And for the most part, I used to just listen to music and just uh, walk around the city. But this really changed the way I look at everything, especially my commute.
That's really cool to hear. I'll tell you something that Jeremy, who directed the film,
Hmm.
um, he told me once that this was an unusual kind of film because normally, in the arc of a film, you have a character, right, who who meets some kind of challenge, has some kind of difficulty, and the whole arc of the story is the character
Hmm.
changing in order
Hmm.
to kind of solve that problem.
Hmm.
And he said that it was tough with this documentary because I don't really change over the course of it. It's not really about something happening to me. And so to
Hmm.
keep the audience involved with the arc of the film, he
Hmm.
said he thought about it as like the audience is going through the change instead of
Hmm.
the character. And so it was exactly what you said about how like he was hoping that through the film it would bring people to eventually look at their own city in a different way, so that you guys watching the film are actually kind of part of the film's arc, and your relationship to your city is changing as you're watching it. So it's really
True.
neat to hear you say that that's kind of how you felt.
I'm very sorry about the very brief answer that I gave. I was I was excited as soon as you joined, so it's sort of Star Trek, sort of starstruck.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, he has tremendous admiration for you. And like I said in the email, I don't think he admires Brad Pitt as much as he thinks highly of you.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Well, it's good to
Very
know that
accurately put.
one person's more excited about me than Brad Pitt, so that's always good.
So Matt, are you walking right now? Like,
I'm outside with my family right now. We actually are on a vacation together in Scotland.
Oh
Um,
wow.
Uh,
yeah, I know it's funny timing. So it's actually the time zone's a little bit better here.
Oh,
But
I
yeah,
see.
we're just out in Edinburgh in Scotland.
Did,
uh,
We just got in yesterday, but I have been walking around here a lot, which has been really
I
great
was just
experience.
about to ask what the mode of commute is right over there.
um, but yeah, so I'm just out on the street now. You guys go ahead.
did you get a chance to taste any single malts in Scotland?
Wait, sorry, let me just get somewhere a little quiet. What'd you say?
Did you get a chance to taste any single malts in Scotland?
Did I get a chance to what?
Uh, Try any single malt scotch in Scotland?
So,
Uh, I was
sorry,
asking
it's the
about
last three.
single malt scotch in Scotland.
Oh, single malt Scotch.
Right, right.
No,
Did you
no.
get?
We just
Oh, you just
arrived,
landed. Right, 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 right.
like kind of late yesterday. So
Mm-hmm.
have barely done anything yet. I just came out last night and I was just walking around.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, is that something I should try? Are you a big Scotch fan?
Oh, I used to be, not as
Uh huh.
much anymore, but at least
Uh huh.
when I used to be. So maybe, mm, how do I? You can try Macallan 12. That's a crowd pleaser.
Okay.
That's a
Okay.
crowd
Okay.
pleaser. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not like a connoisseur or anything, but I could enjoy a good Scotch.
It's a good entry point. So you'll find out whether
Okay.
you're into this or not.
Okay. That's good to know. Um, but yeah, we're kind of going out for our first day of activities today. So my brother did a lot of planning for the trip, so he mostly knows where we're going. I just kind of walk around
Mhm.
and see whatever's here, just like in New York.
Hmm. Uh, Nikhil, were you gonna talk further about the film?
I'll add as with the others. I want to hear
No,
the others talk.
I don't know if Matt has the time. That's the
Okay,
reason.
so I actually had a question. So you started there was a longer walk. I mean, there was a different kind of walk before you started the 8,000 mile walk. So
Uh huh.
I was wondering what motivated you to take this up.
Yeah.
Was
So
it?
I was working as an engineer.
Yeah.
So I was kind of like sitting in a cubicle every day on the computer,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what I'd studied in college. It was okay. It wasn't a terrible job or anything, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just would kind of. It just didn't feel like something that I should spend my life doing.
Mm-hmm.
I was never really excited about it. It didn't really fulfill me, and
Was there any
I didn't.
particular motivation?
Yeah, just that I just didn't want to spend my whole life doing something I didn't care about, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I was always trying to think of, different careers, different things I could be doing, and I never really knew what to do. And then I
Mm-hmm.
just started, because I was living in New York at the time and I was doing a lot of long walks. I just
Mm-hmm.
started having these kind of daydreams about trying to walk all the way across America.
Mm-hmm.
Um, just not because I thought any particular reason it would be good. It's just something that kept entering my mind. I'd be
Mm-hmm.
sitting at my cubicle and I would just have these daydreams about like walking across a prairie somewhere and the wind blowing and the sun shining. I just have all these images in my head, and
Mm-hmm.
so I eventually decided to do that. To quit my job and do this walk across America. And it was kind of a good stepping stone to get to where I am now because it was a very big walk, but it also just took about 5 months. So
Mm-hmm.
it didn't quite feel like a life changing event. It was more like a long vacation. Um, so, so that kind of enabled me to step outside of like the normal way of living in the normal job situation and then get comfortable doing that, and then that kind of allowed me to really change my life and do this thing I'm doing now, which is just taking years and years and years.
It sounds amazing.
Great.
I remember
Matt,
having walked for almost 35 kilometers from the central part of Bangalore to the northernmost. Not entirely the northernmost, but
Uh
close to
huh.
the northernmost. So I just walked. It took me about 5 hours, and
Uh
it
huh.
was mostly listening to music throughout the way.
Yeah, I love walking across the city is really cool because it kind of connects things for you in a way that you don't normally see because normally you're thinking about maybe how the subway lines connect or
Hmm.
how like the highways connect if you're driving, and so you
Hmm.
don't really understand the spatial relationships of things in a way that you do when you walk, and just going from one side of the city to the other. um,
Hmm.
it's just such a different way to see a place. It really kind of opens your eyes, I think.
True, true. And
um,
Matt,
it
I
also
let me ask,
motivated me to traveling a lot
uh-huh.
more. I had a very
Oh,
weird
great.
phobia of your documentary motivated me, by the way. I'm very
That's
thankful for
great.
that.
That's so good. So I
something.
got to go here in a second. I
Okay.
don't know if you have any other questions, real quick,
Yeah,
or any.
I got a quick point, which is you spent quite a lot of time in Brownsville, right? And I'm kind of a mafia history. I don't know what you call it, like a junkie. A lot of
Aficionado.
yeah. Actually, Nikhil as well. So I was thinking there's a spot there that's an old bakery that used to be the headquarters of Murder Incorporated. That's at the
Oh yeah,
intersection of
yeah.
Saratoga and Livonia. So I don't know if
Uh
you
huh.
ever had a chance to go through that spot, like if and how much it stays in the 20s when
Uh,
you
I I did go through it. I mean, I know a little bit about Murder Incorporated. I didn't know about like that particular location. So yeah, I have walked through that intersection, but I wasn't looking for anything in particular. I didn't know about that spot, but it's changed a whole lot. It was kind of a very Jewish neighborhood originally, um, and now it's largely African American. But still kind of similarly, it's kind of a poor neighborhood. So there, it does still have gang problems. Just the 21st century version of gangs instead of the Murder
yeah.
Incorporated era. Um, but yeah, it's still kind of retained that character of just it's mostly working class people just trying to live their lives, but because of all the poverty, there's a lot of gang elements too. So in some ways, it's very different in terms of the demographics, but in some ways similar too.
Okay,
Okay.
thanks for
Thank,
clarifying that.
thank you so
Okay.
much, Matt. Thank you so much for making time to come join the discussion. You
Yeah. Thanks
made
for reaching out. That
all
was
our
fun. I'm
days,
glad you guys
and I'm
are
sure you
watching the
made
film.
Nikhil's entire year. So
Great. That's awesome.
yeah, yeah.
Well, you
So
can feel free to email me if you need anything in the future.
absolutely, thank you so much. I'll
All
send
right.
you a copy of
Bye,
the
guys.
discussion later.
Okay, great.
Okay, okay. See you. Bye
All
bye.
right. Bye bye.
Bye.
Now I just got to figure out how to end the call.
So that was the surprise, Nikhil.
From here on in, we'll celebrate this day as Nikhil's birthday.
I
Born
think
again.
Vishal is the only one besides me who knew about this.
Which
And
still, which still doesn't take away the thrill about the fact that this guy turned out.
indeed, I had lost hope. And in fact, I checked my email before joining the call, and I had no response. So I thought, okay, fine. I sent the email at midnight New York time, so there's no chance that he might have had
So
a time to read it. But
his email was how do you find his email? Is it just on his website or something?
I'll tell you later personally.
Oh, nice,
This
cool.
is on YouTube.
But
So
good surprise,
yeah.
I think it's really cool to have the subject of a film
Mm.
in the discussion.
Yeah, and really grateful that he managed to find the time to come. So, Samantha, did you see the film?
Yeah.
Okay, do you want to go?
Yep,
Okay.
it's so when it's I don't know what to say. It's very unique, and I think like Matt said, it doesn't have a traditional story arc as such. That's something I felt as well. and that makes for a unique story. I've been a tourist to New York City, and one thing I this documentary sort of hit me in the face about is, there's a point in the documentary where he says, I think there's a professor from City University of New York who's Matt's friend and who's also tried something similar, who says that most people think they know their neighborhood, but they really don't know even the one they grew up in, right? So I have only been a tourist to New York and only gone to, I think Vivek will be relate to these locations, like, and even the others like Statue of Liberty and I don't know, the Penn Station and things like that. But the beauty of this documentary is, I think it really, I can't think of any other documentary that's covered so many places in any city, like let alone New York City, like just any city giving such a thorough treatment of the city's geography, the people, the demography, every silly detail, like some signs over the sewer caps to all the way to famous landmarks. So overall a very fulfilling experience, and definitely when I have the time, I'd like to watch it again.
Yeah, so I found this movie by accident. It was recommended by, I would say, someone I know professionally, not really a friend, but for some reason, in a one of the conversations, this film came up, and he recommended it to me, and I slept on it for a while. I didn't watch it for a couple months after that recommendation, but I somehow went to that film, and it it really stayed. And the special thing about it is it's it's a documentary about walking around the city, right? So
Yeah,
it's somewhat of a hard sell to ask someone, hey, let's watch a guy walk through New York City or any city for 1.5 hours. So I wasn't expecting much to begin with. And also, since, the there's only one subject in the documentary, you basically are going to follow this character from the back while he walks around. So visually, it wasn't promising to be very interesting. So, but I'm happy to say, it surprises you on every single front, whether it's storytelling or whether it's the visuals you get to see, the information you get to learn, uh, the people you meet. Most of all, the people you meet. That's, I think, the greatest charm of Matt and the film, that the people you come across in the documentary are unforgettable, and you wish you get to meet you get to have some of these interactions like this in your life too, and it encourages you to open up a little more towards the people around you, be more kind, be more hospitable, learn a little more about each other, that kind of thing. And yeah, from a sociological perspective, from an anthropological perspective, and historical perspective, there's a lot to be unpacked here. So, and I was telling Samartha last night that this documentary is greater than the sum of its parts, and I really do believe that. Even though I watched it for the
That,
third time, it
yeah,
still gave me something new to uh, take away with.
yeah, this is stunning. I think it's the exciting thing is the people. Unlike a regular travel documentary, right? Like you meet people, like you said, from all walks of life, like literally every single walk of life. So that's pretty cool, I thought.
Hey, I noticed that I was on mute. I didn't know.
Sorry, I muted you because there's some echo from your side, so I
Okay,
put you
I
wait.
on
thought
mute.
I
Sorry
thought
about that.
Nikhil was crying out of happiness. So that's
I
why.
was internally, but I didn't think anybody would notice.
He
Just give
needed
me a
his
second.
moment. He needs an-
How about now? Is there any echo now?
No, it's fine. If there's echo, I'll mute you, and you'll get a notification saying that Vivek has muted you.
Sure, sure, sure.
Yeah.
No, the thing is, I don't don't get any vibrations or any kind of ringing notification, which is why.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, were you
And
saying?
by the way, Vishal, you can move my birthday from August 15th to September 18th. I would be fine with that.
Your birthday is on August 15th.
Yeah.
The most patriotic birthday.
So,
Oh
so
my God.
rightly, the club has been started by Nikhil, like this symbolic of this country, It is symbolic of our country. Wow. Now, so if we can, even if we say something controversial, we can all put it on Nikhil. That we have somebody who was born on the 15th.
Oh yes, definitely. I'm a right winger anyway.
So, has anyone else seen like one of the good things is the turnout is, I think, much better than last year, right? Vivek, I
Yeah,
think. So, anybody else seen the film? Any thoughts? The
I know
group?
Vishal has seen it.
I didn't think we started with the initial reactions. I
No, we
mean,
did, no? I mean, at
except
least
for immense excitement. I don't think Sharanya, Brunda, Mohammed got a chance to talk about the film.
Yeah.
yeah, anyone who's seen the film,
There is
just unmute and
also
speak, please.
Nawaz. There's also a new entrant as well. I can't really pronounce their name, so I'm not taking a chance.
No, I think a couple people came in and left. No, like maybe you're referring to that.
Oh, so by the way, I asked. So, do you remember? Do you guys remember I talked about this film on Netflix, Irul? I think Samartha and Nikhil would remember.
Yeah.
So, I was actually talking to the director in the
Irul?
morning. Irul, yes. I was talking to the director in the morning, and his eyes just popped out when he heard about this concept. So when this guy, I mean, what's his name, man? The guy who walked.
Matt Green.
Matt
Yeah,
Green.
Matt Green. When Matt Green turned up, I called him. So I think Naseef was here for some time.
Okay, fine.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he wanted because
Nice.
he was very. When I told him about the documentary, Naseef has this beautiful smile, and he just smiled, and I immediately called him like, Naseef, this guy has turned up if you can, but he was outside somewhere, so I didn't see him actually because I was listening to Matt. I was concentrating on it.
No, it's
So
fine. He can check out the YouTube later.
yeah. So that Naseef was one guy. I don't know about the others who came in. Actually, I saw Brew, so I thought Naseef has come in from some other username. I had no idea that is Brunda because I've never seen her, so I thought that is Naseef.
But Vishal, what's your uh, first take on the film?
Actually, I it's perfect for the theme, but the things that moved me was nothing regarding the theme. You know, I I've realized this that, for example, I have also thought of I have found this idea very exciting. Let me walk from one point to the other. It's not the physical aspect, the tiring aspect that puts you off. I can't pinpoint. Probably it's just the motivation. Like who's going to do it? It's not even tiring. It's I like Matt does, and probably Nikhil can say because he's a walker. When you start, it just takes over you, right? It's not the physical aspect, but something inside me has stopped me from doing it. And I'm not a major trekker, but I've always wanted to trek, but never taken that effort. So this thing that uh, he decided to do something, he went through with it, and that is actually what life is all about. It's not about pigeonholing us into the ideas which society gives you, and it has its reason why it gives you. It's not all negative, but that's not what life is all about. And he just went ahead and did it. Like this guy has no income, right? He said he's not earning anything. He's just doing his thing. So the idea, the fact that he was just doing his thing, it really hit me. I can also connect with it because in my own way, what I am doing is hurting me like it hurt Matt, but it doesn't matter. So it uh, it's not New York or the theme of the film that connected to me. It's just what he was doing. It's just doing whatever it takes, and it's as simple as that. This is what really moved me. This is what really hooked me to the film.
Vishal, to give you a personal note, I am not a trekker as well. The I guess two
No,
weeks
you
ago
said
was my
it is
first.
not about being a trekker. I think Samartha said that you are a walker. So
Yeah, I walk a lot. I had a weird phobia of dying in a road accident, so I never really traveled outside of Bangalore much.
no, but
It was it
if
was mostly thanks to Sharanya Brunda
okay,
and strong motivation by Vivek.
great, great.
But
So
even if you haven't traveled out of Bangalore, I think this film is really about appreciating what is really
The
around
city,
you.
yeah, true,
It doesn't have to be New York. It can be Bangalore. It can be this,
true.
neighborhood you live
I
in, or
actually was about to tell Matt, but that did not want to disturb him. When he was asking us, where are you guys from? And I was about to tell him, like, dude, like, you should try this for Bombay or for Bangalore. It would be
I know,
quite
right?
something. And again,
the
these
traffic and
cities
the
are
honking
also
will.
these
I
cities
was
would be great. These cities would be great to discover that way. I would say both of these.
I I was interested on how he planned his routes. I was too struck to ask him that question.
No, he
Uh,
exposed it in the film, right? Like he says, he basically uses Google and he
I
selects
know.
some.
I mean, there are certain events that happen in certain parts of the city. For example,
Oh, I
there
see.
is a karga that happens every year in Bangalore.
Yeah.
So, is that significant, or is the street by itself significant in any form? Trying to unravel the history, the sociological, the anthropological history of a particular street will generate a textbook all on its own. So I was wondering how he really planned his trips.
Yeah, and also based on what you just mentioned, Karga, right? Like, if a city like Bangalore is insanely rich in history, like it would be really fascinating to dig. I mean, India is a very old country, right? Even compared to the US is quite young in that aspect. So historically, if you dig into a spot, I mean, it will take you down incredible paths, for lack of better words.
Samartha, I think there are some people who do historic walks in Lalbagh. I know
Oh, yeah,
because
in Malleshwaram as well. True.
yeah, I know because I had a friend who was visiting India, and uh, my sister connected her to one of those groups, and she went on these walks and ended up really loving the entire seg- entire event. So I know it does happen here. So
And Indian cities are very lively, full of life. That's my opinion, at least. So,
But from what I've noticed, Bangalore doesn't really have a strong tradition of recording history. It's loosely based on the official records, whatever is remaining. And
Actually, Nikhil, that's a great point. When I was saying that I wanted to tell Matt that Bombay and Bangalore would be two great cities to explore, the thought that there is actually things are actually not as well documented as they are in the West generally. That again makes it very interesting because information itself would be very difficult to find, and hence when you actually come across any sort of information, that is a thrill on its own.
true, the history is mostly based on anecdotes in that sense.
Correct.
Nikhil, I'm not joking, but I
Mm-hmm.
really mean what I'm about to say. I think
Okay.
you should take up this project, a similar
Okay.
project, and
Okay.
document what you can, research what you can, and either you can put it out as a film or put it out as a YouTube video or a book. Either
Mm-hmm.
ways, and I'm sure you can connect with Matt and
And you
uh,
obviously have your own platform to show the film, so
Oh,
not an issue at all. You have enough audience.
that was the whole plan actually.
all right.
yeah.
Sharanya, have you seen the film or Kritik?
Yeah, I just watched the
Okay,
film and I'm coming here.
okay, great.
So, am I supposed to give my opening thoughts here?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Okay. So, it was weird. Like, I went in without any expectations, but I felt like I could relate to the guy much more than I thought I would. So the part where he says that he's a civil engineer and he was sitting in a cubicle and then he's like, "Hey, this is not what I want to do with my life." So I don't know. I felt like I
I
could
hear
relate
you.
a lot. It's like this weird thing. Um, what can I say? Okay, so it's just that I feel I really like design, but then I'm like designing a lot of these concrete boxes. But on the other hand, I also really like nature, so I don't really want to be sitting in those concrete boxes. So now, what do I actually do when I like two things and like two things are like each one is a I? So I don't know. But I found the documentary really interesting, and it was so much fun to like see him like go to random places and then come up with tidbits about all these places, the history, and the small things he's finding all along the way. So I think I really liked it. So I was also wondering a few things about the movie itself. Like, how would the documentary be different if it was a women walking? Would it have been structurally different? Would it have been different in the way she'd like planned her walks? Or what sort of research would have gone into it?
True.
So that was one thing I had. My voice is echoing a lot.
No, I
Divya, I
guess
think
I spoke in between. Is it mine? I
yeah,
have
Vrinda,
some temple shanka going behind, so it's like background sounds. I'll
Uh,
mute it. Go ahead.
okay.
so in the film he walks every single street in
Yeah.
the city. So I don't think it would be any different because every there's nothing to omit or there's
I
nothing to
think
include.
she's talking about the safety aspects in mind.
And the safety aspect came up for Matt as well, right? There were a
Mhm.
few people who asked him, "Have you ever run into any danger or any?
Mm.
Or did anyone try to mug you? Anyone try to rob you?" And he said, "No, not in my experience."
So
So,
I guess we can talk about that like going further.
hmm.
And other than that, I was also thinking about I don't know if this is politically correct, but it takes some sort of privilege to be able to go on a walk like this. And since he comes off as a passing white person, I wonder if it was someone from a disadvantaged part of the society, or if it was someone like a person of color, would how would it be different for them? Would it mean more getting catcalled or like racist comments, or I don't know, how do you guys think it would be different for someone else?
And that is also addressed in the film now. So
Okay.
there is
Yeah, there was that
an immigrant. I
Jamaican
forget
yeah.
writer.
where was he from? Jamaica, is it?
Yeah, he's a Jamaican writer who I
Okay.
think is one of Matt's friends, and they've been working on something together.
Right,
And
right.
he was talking about how because he needs to dress in a certain way to
Mm,
not attract attention. But I like Sharanya's first part of the question, which is a really thought provoking one. How would it be if it was a woman doing it? And I don't have an answer, but it's sort of got me thinking. It's an interesting question.
And Sharanya,
mm.
I was curious about your take on the whole film because you, I think I've mentioned a few times that you're really into trekking and exploring and all these things. So did that aspect connect to what he was doing with the
It
film?
really connected with me, but I'm more of a nature person than a city person. Like, especially when you think about Bangalore, I just am not very happy with the place.
Are
Um,
you originally from Bangalore or
yeah, I've been like brought up here for
okay?
practically my whole life,
Hmm.
but I don't know. Bangalore doesn't speak to my soul for some reason. Although it's a pretty liberal place if you think about it.
Hmm.
But I don't know. It's not my city for some reason.
But beyond the city aspect,
Yeah,
what Vishal was saying, that
yeah,
you are doing something for the love of it,
yeah.
not for the economic
Mm.
uh, aspects, and it really takes a certain kind of willpower to go ahead with it. we all dream about it, but it,
Yeah.
really takes a lot of. Um, is risk the right word, Vishal? I don't know, but yeah, it does require.
Uh, uh, it's a very, so the question that Sharanya put forward about what if it was a woman, that is actually also connected with privilege, right? Uh,
Yeah.
but here's the thing, and the reason I don't know whether I have an answer, but I I have thought a lot about privilege, a lot. So one thing that I've come to, what I've figured out is, um, privilege doesn't take away the fact that you still had the balls to do it, because it requires tremendous amount of courage. Whoever you are, it requires a tremendous amount of courage to live your life at your on your own terms, because there is a great amount of pressure from society, and it is not easy to do your thing because society does not like you to do your thing, and it is much more tougher than it may sound. uh, he had privilege, and he says this, right? Okay, I had privilege where we had everything that we wanted, and his parents also say, like, we wish it's good that he's doing his thing, but we wish he was earning some money out of it. But you look at the percentage of people who are doing this thing, it's lesser than negligible, So credit where it is due. Privilege helps, but what can you do? So, and being a woman, I think that's a very interesting question. I don't think we have an answer. Uh, I can share one anecdote. When I'd gone to Delhi, um, I think it's more pertinent to to Delhi than in Bombay or Bangalore. I had gone to Delhi on my own, and I was like, it's a nice city, man. This is the what is this? Why do we hear it? So why do we hear so many negative things about it? But when I was there with a girl, nobody said anything, no catcalling, nothing. But I could just feel it. The vibe was horrible. So it's a very interesting question. I really don't have an answer to it, but I mean, I think as a guy, I don't think it is my place to answer. Also, very interesting question. But I would say the
If
privilege
I
is there, but you can't take away the fact that this guy just did it.
if I may add something, um, I do feel it might be quite different if it was a woman. She might had to, given her understanding of the societies, probably the minority societies, and uh, I'm not sure what they call it, but uh, the small pockets of uh, the less privileged communities. She might be, given her acquaintance with those communities, she might be wary of walking there and traveling there at a certain time of the day. So it's mostly on how they perceive these communities. I think that is reflective on how they travel through the city. For example, there might be some of us who might not really take one particular route at time of the night, given a lot of ad hoc uh, stories on what happens over there. So
There is a song by John Lennon. I don't
mhm.
want to be controversial, but there is a song by John Lennon which says, "A woman is the nigger of the world." Okay,
Okay.
so when you see this documentary, a woman can do this walk, but she will have to be as careful as this black person from Jamaica was while doing that walk. And it is definitely not the same thing. Like Matt doing it, it's not, even for a white woman, it will not be as straightforward. That is true. So yeah, it's very
Uh,
interesting.
Vishal, I'm sure maybe you may not be aware of this, but just going forward, just use N word. It's
No,
better.
that's why I said there is this song and
Be
it's
that as
not
it may,
it's
just
not
saying
it's not it's
it's
I understand what you're trying to say, but that is a song by John Lennon, and he was trying to portray something. He was not. It was not against the community. So, I understand what you're saying, and I am also careful about using this word, but I'm trying to make a point. I
You know,
understand.
as I think more about this man woman, some ways it's just kind of personal for us, but I feel in some ways the people may open up better to a woman than a man. I don't know why you feel that way.
That is a
So,
great point. That is a great.
it's almost a motherly sort of a bond. Like I think women can make that bond faster with a random person as long as they're reasonably sociable. And it's unique. I'm not saying it's greater or worse or whatever compared to that of a man, but there may be some really amazing things you can see in those relations between the woman host and the everyday people shown in this documentary that you may not get with a man going around the city. And with the safety aspect, there's also a cameraman, so both of you get into risk, right? What I'm trying to say is there's a small crew at least. So it may not be as risky as you originally imagined. But nevertheless, it's challenging. I mean, Brownsville, New York is like reputed as one of the most dangerous places since the 20s, like in New York City. So obviously it's going to be scary, but I'm guessing there's some ways around that. Like maybe he only did Brownsville. I think most of the shots were day shots. Nothing was done through the dead of the night. But I really think there would be some interesting, unique things to a woman doing this compared to a man.
Brunda or Sharanya. Do you want to have a go at this point that Samartha brought up?
Yeah, I think what he said makes a lot of sense. Um, I feel like when there's a woman involved in any space, she seemed as less threatening. So you're not expecting any danger from her at the first look. So I feel what he said makes a lot of sense actually. And considering the point, answering my own question in a way, I just felt that if a woman had done the talk, probably it would be slightly different. That should be more careful about how she dresses in certain neighborhoods. Should probably have something in her mind for her defense in case a situation turns nasty. And yeah, like she wouldn't probably be doing any night walks as such, and probably a lot more research would have been done um, into going into those walks. And also to reply to Vishal's point, no offense to any Delhi people here, but Delhi has been the most unsafe city I have visited in India. Period. I cannot add anything else to that.
I totally agree with that.
Vrinda,
Yeah,
did you have
even I have
something?
experienced. In terms of Delhi, yeah, even I've experienced that vibe is like you can't express. It's
I don't.
just you feel so uncomfortable.
That's what I also felt. Like nobody said anything,
Sorry.
nobody did anything, but it's all in the eyes. The one thing to
Yeah.
people. And I was like, I am a guy. I mean, I can't even imagine what women must be feeling.
Nikhil, when these women, when Vishal and girls are talking about
Brunda, I
this
think your
phenomenon,
mic and
Yeah.
speaker are very close together. That's why there's an echo for everybody else.
Now is it clear or is it not
Let
that
me
good?
see. Yeah, I think it's better
think
now. No, no, no. There's still an echo. Still an echo.
I, I don't think we got a chance to hear Pratik's initial reaction.
It's thanks for bringing me in, but I was trying. I was just. It was good hearing what others had to say. I mean, for me, a huge part of the documentary was his interactions with everyone, and it's how everyone immediately opens up to him when he reveals his project. And I was thinking about his, the charismatic vibe he lets out. He himself brings out that open vibe that that makes people trust him, and in- uh, continue talking with him. And but one more aspect that also really interested me was the whole puzzle solving, which he sees in some neighborhoods, and that was very interesting. I mean, I would I would definitely like to see that be done at in Bangalore also, because it's a great form of record keeping of. I mean, in fact, actually, when I was in school, they tried to start a oral history kind of project, but I don't think that went anywhere.
There's actually an interesting book on Bangalore's history, particularly its sociological history, and how, as a result of mostly immigrants, Bangalore changed from being a quiet back city of Mysuru to the IT hub of India. It's Bangalore in the 21st century by Janaki Nair, and it is brilliantly researched. And it also captures a lot of the rural mindset that is still permeating in the city, which is supposedly relatively much more rational than its rural counterpart.
And
But yeah, go on.
no, please carry on.
So I've come to notice how Bangalore is also, despite its claims for being very liberal, is deeply seated in a lot of these rural and backward ideologies. We can come to notice it with the language a lot of people use, mostly the first generation or second generation immigrants use, instead of Kannada. And at the same time, we can also notice the uh, s- uh, division of um, localities, mostly a huge locality with uh, a lot of rich people and the pockets of immigrants distributed around it. And from from a recent documentary that I watched, Bombay a City by Anand Patwardhan, it seems to be the case with almost all urban centers. It's just an observation that I wanted to share. Go on, Vivek.
No, I was just wanting to ask Kritik. He was a little skeptical about going into the film, um, and
I mean,
yeah,
yeah, I really liked it, to be honest, and I'm glad you convinced me to watch it.
no, I wanted to ask: did you come in for 15 minutes or 20 minutes,
No,
and
I
then
watched the
how did it
entire
go?
thing. Otherwise, I wouldn't have come.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually feel it brought back a lot of
I think I had a very similar experience with the documentary.
Actually,
With
I gave the same challenge to Nikhil. Like, please watch
uh,
15 minutes of the film, and if it hooks you, then you watch it. Otherwise, you can stop, and the rest is history.
But I wanted to know from recent accounts of how New York might have changed, because I think there weren't any streets that he revisited
I
to
believe
notice
he
the.
revisited the birth control clinic, as or I don't know if that was just for the documentary, or whether he actually revisits the places after researching them.
I noticed this time around while watching the film today, there are some overlapping lines. So maybe you happen to cross the same street twice to get to where you need to be, but beyond that, I don't think he would have time to cover the same place twice.
Is the city structure mostly cul-de-sac or is it grid?
As far as I know, uh, um, I guess
It's a
downtown towards Manhattan, it's a little more.
great, right?
Sorry.
It's like I mean, to see the map, right? It's
Hmm.
crazy. It's like I don't know how to put it. Like
I'm
horizontal
looking
lines.
at his website, and it looks mostly grid like.
Right. So the modern development is all grid based. But in the film, he says that the original settlement of New York, which is when the
New Amsterdam.
European immigrants came in, it was originally called New Amsterdam. And through some process, I don't really know the history, it was later changed to New York. And that original settlement, that original little town, retains that, topsy-turvy, lots of curving alleyways and all that. Whereas anything which was developed henceforth was in a grid pattern.
Regarding the naming, I'm just thinking a wild guess here, but with the British, I think the British have something to do with York and New York. Like once they invaded, right? They started naming places as new, quote unquote, new versions of what was back home. So you have New Haven, you have New York, you have all these so-called New Hampshire, and
New England.
yeah, yeah. So it's funny. I used to think America has no imagination when it comes to naming. Even streets sometimes. Like most of the cities where I lived, they were like really, uh, I don't know, copied name. But then there's a strong historic reason for this sort of a thing. Maybe if they start renaming things like we did Chennai and Mumbai, it'll be very interesting. I think.
Most American cities are laid out in the grid pattern, or at least the American cities I had the chance to visit, with the exception of Boston and San Francisco.
Is there a technical advantage with grid over cul-de-sac? Question to everyone.
One key advantage I know is it's very easy for emergency services to reach you. It doesn't matter if there's a traffic, so they can always take an alternative route and still get there in time. Whereas in cities which have a natural growth towards curving roads and going up and down the hills, it's slightly more difficult. But from an urban development point of view, I guess it's helpful for the authorities, like for the city development and all that, but it's arguable whether it makes for a better city or not. Because I mean, we covered Los Angeles Plays itself, right? So they had a lot of criticism of that.
So Vivek, I'm going to call it a day. I go get to some work, but I wanted to thank everybody for. I'll catch everything else on YouTube, and thanks for the surprise. It was very rewarding. Hopefully, we can get the subjects or the filmmakers, more involved with this discussion. That'd be awesome.
Definitely. Okay, Samartha. Hope you feel better soon. Take care.
Yeah. Okay. See you guys.
Take care. Bye bye. So, actually, Samartha would have been the perfect person to answer that point and then leave. But it's fine. We can talk to him later about it. And
so I think I could give a little bit insight about that grid.
Oh, please, yeah, please, Sharanya, go ahead.
Sharanya and Brunda, yes, please.
Okay, so when you have a grid pattern, right? It depends. The development, it depends on how you are going to zone it and stuff like that. But grid patterns will have a lot more traffic points. So if you have to go straight from one point to another, you would have like many more traffic points. So probably that could increase your travel time. So the organic pattern we were earlier talking about, so that sort of respects the natural terrain of the city a little bit more, and it gives you a little more flexibility. Like for example, if you see Bangalore, it's like sort of organic. You have the outer ring road, and then you have this settlements which are like around it. So each has its own advantages and disadvantages. Even I think, if I'm not mistaken, even Chandigarh has a grid sort of pattern. So they've like zoned it based on sectors. So you have like sector 1, sector 2, like so many you have. So That was also done by this famous architect called Lee Cobb. Um, it has its advantages and it has its disadvantages.
There's a film about the development or planning and construction of Chandigarh. Uh, I
Oh,
don't know if you
isn't
have seen
this
it.
Le Corbusier?
No, no, no. It's called Orville Chandigarh,
Oh, okay.
and I don't know if you guys have seen it, but uh, I'll definitely share it with you guys if you are interested. It takes place over a long
So
period of time of from the planning stage to the final execution stage of how they use certain materials to save costs and uh, basically respecting the tradition of the land and designing a city around it and not just throwing the most modern solution at the problem.
Yeah, you can send it on the chat.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
Okay.
I'll send it to you.
Sharanya, Brunda, and Vivek, uh, I've I've been told Karlsruhe, a city in Germany, has a concentric pattern in its planning, the with the palace being in the center. I'm not sure if Mysore follows a similar structure, but Karlsruhe definitely does. And one of my friend who stayed there for about a year, he brought uh, brought it to my notice. Would you think that is, in some sense, a much more ideal pattern for a city to grow in? Because it would also allow for the organic developments and new settlements to pop up toward the end. I mean, toward the corners.
In my opinion, circle means a lot of waste of space. I don't remember the name right now, but in Denmark, they did this city planning zoning where everything is like in circles. So you have like a big circle, and then the land is divided into different parts, like a pie, and then you have like a building on the large end, and then you have a garden on the narrowing end. So it's a lot of waste of space. What are you going to do with the space which is left over outside the circle? And I mean, you get a garden, but it's like a lot of waste of space. It could be used much better, I think.
It could probably follow the American structure of city planning. The city center, the urban space in the middle, and the suburban toward the outskirts of it. Even if it's a concentric circle.
Brunda,
I
what about you as an architect? Do you have a preference between the organic and the grid patterns? Brunda, are you there? Maybe not. Sharanya, you were saying something?
uh no, I was just thinking of asking Nikhil to just send the name so that I can like look up what exactly it is.
Carl Shui, KRL and SHEUHE, I suppose.
Karlfruhe, I think.
Thank you. Thank you.
Also, Nikhil, I couldn't find the book when I googled it. The book about Bangalore.
If you look for Janaki Nair, she's a JNU professor. Janaki Nair, just type in the keyword Janaki Nair
What
book.
is the book about?
It's about the social history of Bangalore
Okay,
and how it evolved,
great. So,
which is a very interesting take because you mostly have political history or anthropological history,
hmm,
which mostly deals with the cultural history and talks about the some of the temples here and their dissipated culture, and also the Karga, which is a very significant part of Bangalore. But the social history aspect is very interesting to look at because you have a drastic change in the uh, population here. Probably within what, about 20-25 years, if I remember correctly. As soon as the IT boom started, you had an influx of uh, a lot of people, mostly immigrants from the northern parts, and the city structure and uh, the zoning, the uh, culture as well. it shifted drastically from being mostly uh, mostly uh, quiet and not getting the other word, but mostly a quiet city turned into what it is right now. And even if you notice Bangalore right now, you have those deeply seated pockets of those areas, which did not really change much. You have Baswangudi, you have Jayanagar, you have Maleshwaram, and Vijayanagar, which did not really change much from the 80s or 90s, from what I remember. But these are mostly from anecdotes, from what I hear from my parents and my grandparents.
Sharanya, you were talking about if a woman had to do this work, there would be a certain amount of attention she would have to pay towards what she wears, right? And it's a part of the film talks about this in the context of the Jamaican guy, right? That he's a recent immigrant, and since he's of a darker skin by nature, he has to fight his stereotype and appear a certain way so as to not invite or stay low on the radar, if you want to say that. And he uses this word called costume of normality. I think that he has a certain type of shirt and certain type of shoes, um, and he always carries a book to appear of as a non-threatening person and wears glasses to appear more non-threatening. Uh, so I wonder, is this something that a lot of people think about? They wear a certain appearance to come off a certain way, or do people mostly just wear what they prefer, or does it matter depending on where you're from and who you are, that you have to think about these things before you leave the home?
Are you asking only in terms of gender or
All
as
across, not just gender. It could be, you know yeah, any category. It could be gender, could be class, could be uh, immigrant or local. This costume of normality, is this a subconscious thing that we
I,
do?
I think if I had to give my personal preference, there are a lot of it's a combination of factors. So one thing is um, I'd wear stuff which is like more utilitarian rather than a lot of fashion choices, like I don't know, stoles or something like that. I'd prefer to if I have to go like somewhere really fast, so I can just like run there or jog somewhere. So it depends. Like I also have to go to a lot of site visits on a daily basis, so my daily attire would have something with a lot of pockets. And possibly you're also showing yourself as projecting yourself as something to the people you meet, so you have to dress according to that. And in addition to that, I'd probably also say your background, where you come from, and how what you can afford. um yeah, that's all I can think of. I think all these things would sort of play a role. And also I would say like where the place where you're going to. So
There
possibly
might also
if I'm going to visit my granny or something, I'd probably dress more modest as compared to going out to meet my friends or something like that.
Hmm. Okay.
there is also a cultural difference from. Uh, I, I think it just popped up as soon as Sharanya brought in that question. Uh, if they are from a uh, low middle income family and they stay in a country where the parents really do depend on them once they graduate. In a country like India, the situation might be very different because dedicating a significant amount of time to walk around the city outside of your monotonous job, it might prove very hectic for them. And but probably from at least from the documentary, what we can really take is trying to unravel whatever we are looking at, because he didn't really go outside of the city to uh, try and bring up a huge historical revelation. It was mostly within the city and mostly within the blocks. Most people commute and really doesn't notice much.
There's one point I want to bring up, um, about how Matt manages his expenses, and that is brought up, I believe, earlier in the film, that he has some degree of savings from his engineering employment days, but clearly that's not enough to live the kind of life that most people are used to. And there's a lot of ways he cuts down on his expenses. Is one, he doesn't have a home, so he doesn't have to pay rent, and he chooses very specifically what kind of meals to eat, and they're very simple meals. And he said that even though he's eating just beans and rice, it is very fulfilling to him, because this is the price he's paying to have complete freedom and complete um the opportunity to continue his project. So there is a theme of frugality and contentment, or being content with limited means, or with your sacrifice to pursue something you really care about. So,
I
anyone? Yeah.
personally found it fascinating that he found his meaning doing something that's really simple and straightforward, and I mean it's just I mean I know it was a difficult choice, and the lifestyle is probably difficult for is a difficult decision to take, but I'm a little bit fascinated at how simple he makes it out to be.
Hmm. Right. Right. And I mean, we all have something that we truly care about, and something that we're putting off for better days, that once I have XYZ, then I'll pursue my dreams. And some of us are some of us are giving up a few things in life to pursue those dreams right now. And I would like Mohammed and Vishal, because his name is, and I keep saying Nikhil, Mohammed and Vishal, to answer this, because both of them are doing exactly what they want at a personal expense, which has come up in prior discussions. So, did you relate to the contentment aspect of the film in uh, to what you're doing, or do you want to talk about how what you might be giving up, or how do you come to terms with the cost it takes to do what you really want?
Yeah, that's a really. I think that's a fundamental question every human being should ask. That are you content? Are you do you gain that peace of mind what you are into, any job or any career you are in? So speaking of myself, yeah, I had lot of other options to pursue, engineering, lot of other options, but I felt that this my profession of teaching is something which uh, where I can prioritize my peace of mind. Ultimately, what do we need? That we need to, what to say, negotiate with our own self. Though we may fight outwardly, we may blame others that okay, this is not happening, this is not suiting me, this atmosphere is suffocating. But yeah, that's but as last time we spoke, why do people stick to those profession where they don't gain or they suffer? Like I think uh, that I think the previous movie what we watched, and I think you guys rightly brought up that yeah, it's all about security. Uh, we crave for security. We want to what to say, have that guarantee of livelihood where we wouldn't suffer suffer the harsh outer world or face the outer world. Yeah, there are very few people who can dare to go against the norms, challenge the reality. But what I feel that that daringness, that courage to pursue what you love, I think it has to do with the passion, the way we are brought up. Yeah, it's all about prioritizing your peace of mind. If you do that, then you have gained everything in your life. I think, yeah, yeah, that's my end.
Vishal, are you there?
Vivek nahi aapa. Mohammed once asked this question.
Hopefully,
Okay,
Vivek.
how can you disappoint your parents? He asked this question, and for me, therein lies the majority of the answer because I have been a constant disappointment to my parents. And as I said, it's society has few norms which it wants you to adhere to, not because it's those are the right norms. It's just that they've figured it out according to them. So it requires a lot of courage to do what you want. But I feel it's more than courage. See, in my case, I'm jealous of a lot of people that I meet because they seem to have figured things out. I had not figured it out for a long time in my life. That I wanted to pursue cinema came to me very late in my life, and at that point, it did not matter to me whether I'm good or not. I had to do it, so I did it, and then I realized, where else would I go if I don't do this? So it's more than courage. It's just once you reach that stage, it's impossible to sustain if you don't do it. You cannot sleep. So you got to do it, and that's why I connect with Matt. Once he had decided that he's going to do this thing, he had to do it. Otherwise, there is no place for him to go. He's a dead person. I also feel that if I don't pursue cinema, I'm as good as a dead person.
Wouldn't say dead, but he had his engineering he could
No,
fall
no,
back
not
upon,
that
but
way. It's just that
he didn't want to.
that's what I'm saying. You feel dead. That's what I'm saying. I can also pursue something else. I'm not doing it because I just don't see any reason for me to get up and do it. So it's not going to happen for me. So it's actually, courage is one aspect, because courage is an aspect to on the outside, but from the inside, there is no other way to go about it, and you don't really have an option actually, because you gotta do it. So it's I actually probably am not the right person, but to answer this question, because I don't feel it is courage. I feel that you got to do it. That's all. And but it does require a lot of courage. People do not realize that. For example, let's say parents want you to get married, and probably you also want the security that marriage emotional security that marriage brings. But when you do not get married because you are focused on doing something, that is a kind of sacrifice. And then your folks, your family, nobody realizes that this is also sacrifice that you are doing. They think that you just want to do your own thing. And it is true for everything else also, as in if you're not earning enough money because you are trying to do something, you are also letting go of the possible as Matt says, he's living a very frugal life. So he's letting go of something to achieve something. Who doesn't want a comfortable life? Everyone wants a comfortable life. But when you got to do something, you got to do something. And then when you also feel that at the end of your time, what would you want? Like, would you be happy just because you had a comfortable life, or you did what you wanted to do? So that's what I'm saying. Like the fact that Matt just went out and did it, it's I can totally connect with it. You have to do it, that's all. And there's nothing else to it. You just go out and do it.
What's also impressive is he's not doing it to
Hey,
achieve any
am
ends.
I audible now?
Yeah,
Just
you're
to
audible.
check.
Yeah,
Yeah.
works.
Yes, sir.
Great,
Yeah.
works.
It's actually, Nikhil, you're right. I totally agree. It's
Being a staunch materialist, I don't really have the notion that there is anything beyond the ends. Means and ends are essentially the same. So that is what I usually go for immediately. But this is sort of challenging that very aspect. So by the way, this is another uh, point of change that I know that I attained from the film.
And what is that?
Not being a staunch materialist. So
Staunch
previously,
materialist or materialist in general?
mati- what difference would that make? Materialist
Staunch
in
means your
general.
success is defined by the things you buy and own,
Oh no
right?
no no.
Or
Yeah,
and
materialist in
materialism
general.
is simple things, right? You want the latest iPhone and you want you want to
That is
compete, like they
consumerism.
say, right, keeping up with the Joneses, as they say.
No, particularly in terms of means and ends. Matt Green did not really have a particular end, or he did not intend a particular end for what he was doing with his 8,000 mile walk. Uh, on the contrary, I usually have, even with the relationships and friendships I form, I usually have this notion of a particular give and take on uh, means and ends. And if the end somehow is greater than the means, the relationship or the friendship somehow makes sense. That was essentially my general notion, but this is in some sense challenging the whole philosophy of it.
I forgot who it is, but
Mm-hmm.
someone once told me
Mm-hmm.
how to measure the worth of a person.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a little controversial thing to say, right? Like, how do you measure the worth of a person?
True.
So I can't remember who it was, but they said you judge a person by the way they treat someone who has nothing to offer them anything.
Mm-hmm.
So
True.
you take a look at how they're treating people who have nothing to offer
Mm-hmm.
this person.
I think your friend took it from Muhammad Ali. I think that's what he said.
From
I
who?
think this is a quote by Muhammad Ali.
Possibly,
Yeah.
possibly.
So you did not tell us your friends with Muhammad Ali. Huh? You look younger than that.
Just don't look me up on Google. That's all.
Oh,
Controversial.
that is a
Controversial.
different
No.
conversation which
Off topic.
everyone
Off topic.
should.
Off
Everyone should
topic.
please do that.
Stop. So yeah, I mean, and this is the beautiful thing about Matt and what we see in this film.
Mm-hmm.
He has this amiable persona that people just open up to him, and he offers 2 minutes of genuine friendship. to anyone who wants it.
True.
In his walks. And even, there's a scene where a guy is really pissed off that he's taking pictures of his home. And like, no, you can't do that. And if it was, I guess most people would start off by matching that tone of voice, saying that, no, I have every right, and, the rule of law and so and so. And Matt knows that. He knows that it's perfectly legal to photograph public property from the street side. But he still manages to disarm him and make friends with him.
Sure.
So there's something to be learned there.
I had a question to you guys all. Hello?
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, this is what I have observed during the pandemic period. I was in Bannerghatta forest, interior part. I was in a school. After this lockdown opened, lot of cyclists took to our area. They used to come by cycling, and I don't know what they felt. They felt that, okay, a change of air might do good to them. But what they felt was like, because I am relating this one because the main character, I think he took the walk. Whereas now what I see, taking a walk in a rural area, in dense with the forest. Have you guys taken any such journey? And if yes, what do you feel looking at the rural landscape, especially the hilly areas? Have you any guys here?
I used to do a lot of treks, but abroad and near Bombay, not near Bangalore. Sharanya maybe has some answers.
I think I can answer your question. I done this one trek January 2020. It's this area called Wakayama in Japan. So it's like a series of treks which are connected with shrines. So the thing is, the whole set of trails is called Kumono Kodo. So there was one particular section of a trek which was supposed to be very remote. It was so remote, and it was in the off season that I was the only one in the trail. There was like literally no one in the trail. It was just me. So the Japanese have a concept. I think it's called forest walking or something. So you just experience the entire sensory experience that a forest has to offer you. In my short life, I would say that was the best experience I've had in my life. So it was just me. It was just the sound of rain, the sound of streams, and like these really tall trees that you can't even see the sky, and just the sound of nature. I think it was a very good experience. I'd suggest all of you to go and, if possible, do it once in your life.
Is this near Kyoto or?
It's a little bit further from Osaka.
Oh, okay.
So it's between Osaka and Nagoya, if I'm not mistaken. It's this prefecture called Wakayama.
So probably accessible by the bullet train, right?
Yeah, so from any major city, you need to take 2 bullet trains and 1 bus.
Okay.
Thank you, Sharina, for sharing that. And I would like to share my experience of traveling to, not trekking as per, but I went on a lonely journey to Himalayas, Gangotri. It was a very unique experience. But what I felt, what I was very much able to connect to the people who were staying, who were living there. I think in Gangotri, at that place. So I stayed there 3 days. One day I stayed with a sannyasini. She is living in a cave. And it's a big rock, and inside there are many books related to Advaita philosophy, and she was staying, and she fed me that day. But what I felt was it was a very, very unique experience because you meet with a strange people and they guide you in a strange way for a strange reason. This happened. I was in Rishikesh. From Rishikesh, we have to take a bus to Gangotri or Badrinath. So while going to Gangotri, there is one guy I met around is in his 30s, I think, and we just had a casual talk. And I made sure to not to reveal my name because the name raises the or gives the way for prejudice. So I concealed my name for my own reason. So we had a good talk. We stayed in a Kailash ashram there. We spent the night there. And returning, he handed me a 500 rupees note and said me that you must go to Badrinath. And I wasn't fixed. Are Baba, why is pulling me to or pushing me to go to Badrinath? But I thought, okay, I have come for means I had taken that journey for no reason. So okay, anyway, I paid the 500 rupees. Then I went to Badrinath too. And surprisingly, I met there Kannadigas. uh, from Karnataka, I think from Gulbarga part. Then we had a brief talk because we were climbing the steps to Badrinath temple inside. So through this, what I felt is when you take a journey, when you take a walk, or when you try to do something very different, which you have never done, I think something called destiny or something that connects to you with those people whom you come across. Uh, Really, I'm saying you should go without any support, without any contacts, without anything. I slept in a hospital in one place. They gave me a shelter for one night. Then I slept there, and I walked through Rishikesh. Little bit, I took some walk, and every experience, I think that was meant to convey some message to me, or it may be just my fancy that I am making up that pattern that it meant something for me. But I feel that you should take and means very surprise journey where you don't have any contacts. Make sure not to have any contact near Delhi or any place that you will spend that night. Uh, it's that I think it will definitely give you a new perspective, new experiences. But yeah, as Sharanya mentioned at the first, that it would be difficult for the women, especially because the culture we are in is very. I shouldn't say bad, but this is what we have developed. Or uh, it's very difficult for a woman to take that kind of journey. Yeah. So that was why I wanted to ask you guys that have you taken any unexpected journey very far, like I took for Himalaya directly? And moreover, I think it was good because I don't have any parents, so I was very much independent. I could take my own decisions. I could go anywhere I like. So others may have their family. There may be some concerns to be addressed. But overall, at least once in your life, you should take such a. It's not a risk. I think it's a kind of a knowing your own self that can you stand to that experience. That's all.
Yeah, actually, just to answer for Mohammed's question, I'm audible, right?
We can hear you. Audio quality is
Yeah.
much better now.
Okay, thank God. So to answer this question, I had gone for a trip like towards the Leh, Ladakh, Manali, and then towards the Rotang Pass side. It was a college trip, but yet I kind of took some short trails or came off the track and had my own trekking or a small path of my own. And the woods, or it's just that the terrain or the place or whichever, especially anything that's connected to nature, it has something to tell you if you're open to it, or it gives a different kind of calmness, or you get a different experience which I can't share it in words, or I can't define it with a term. I can just tell you got to experience it. And though it was my first trip towards a larger, the number of days were quite more this time for a North Indian trip. The experience I had through the woods when I was walking along. It was like I was going with a gang of friends, yet I didn't seem to be a part of the gang. And it was like an individual journey. I'm going with a set of people, so it's like my own journey. So it was a very beautiful experience. And yeah, Himalayas is like my dream to go, and I would really suggest all the people to at least take any shortest trail anywhere even near to Himalayan ranges. You would have a different experience. The way you perceive life or the way you see yourself, the level of understanding you have about yourself would totally change. Even with your Even though if you aren't aware of it, things just change and it takes their own natural form. You just got to enjoy the ride. And yeah, just before I forget, I would like to just make few points. I couldn't get along during the previous conversation. One was regarding you had asked, right? I'll go from the backyard so that there'd be some sort of connectivity. So that is about Matt's persona, that he seems to be quite welcoming, or he has this persona where people are quite fine. I think it's not just about his persona, it's also the approach which he is taking towards these strangers, right? Whether it is a stranger, whether it is anyone, our common response to any person or anyone in general when they are not on the same line of our thought is we get offended, or we throw this normal socialized way of conversation as I'm right, or no boss, or some the tone changes, but the way he carries out is he's not trying to portray that he is harmful through the approach. And he's also very clear, or he's making his statements very clear as what is he up to, or why is he taking a particular picture. So in that way, I think along with his persona, his approach, or the way he is welcoming to them, though they are trying to shut the doors to him, is also something that has helped him through the journey. That's what I felt. And something related to the women clothing, or the way we dress, which you had brought a topic about, something where I could uh, kind of tell that we kind of can go on a safe road is whether it is that of a woman or any other gender for that matter. If we are trying to, for example, if I would want to have a trek, or if I would just want to go for a ride or a trip for some X place, maybe that is totally different from that of my customs or my local culture or anything. If I'm trying to uh, put myself out there like I am some identity, or like I am so and so person. Suppose if for example, if I'm going to some village, and if I'm trying to go with some blazers upon, or full that of a modernized approach. Not that there is nothing wrong with the dress code, but it's just that the people wouldn't be that welcoming, because we would be seen, or the way we would be perceived, whether it is that of women or any gender, would be treated like an alien person. Even that, for even in the context of our urban context, if some outsider, or if a foreigner comes, though they have been dressed normally, but it is not that locally associated with our way of dressing. Unknowingly or knowingly, our eyes get we just our eyes just pass through them. So, and this is something which I like am trying to reconsider, or trying to re-see it through one of Sudhamurthi's her experience. As even during her exploration times, she was trying to visit all these villages, or she had some plans to do, or some social work to do in a village. So she was always trying to approach the village through her normal urban or rural urban context clothing. So though her intentions were right, people were not able to connect through her. So their approach, people's reaction was obviously very strange, or for us it would be strange. For them it seems very normal, because it's like some unknown person who has some X identity, or who is something different from our local context, is seems to be encroaching, or seems to be like an eye over our activity. So that would not make them socially friendly enough. But the slight change in the way you dress to the local context may change, or the slight change in the way you interact with them and their local language, or or even if you are unaware of their knowledge, or even if you are out of the actual local costume, just the way you interact, or if you show them, you aren't harming them, whether it is just for a trip, or whether if you want to if you want to have some street photography or anything for that matter. I would suggest that your approach towards a particular place or a street or or a person matters, your approach and your intention. And yeah, this was regarding the women thing, as how we could try to be more friendly rather than getting an alien, or not that much of a good vibe, how we can try to avoid those in terms of gender issue. And then in terms of urbanism, which we are talking about, and few layout structures which we are talking about, which Nikhil had brought up, I guess, Nikhil and Sharanya. So in here he was talking about something called as this circular circular form of what is this circular urban planning. So in that, actually there's nothing else. Both have their pros and cons, and just in this circular format, what happens is, because in a circle the center is the focal point, and as you radiate from the as you sorry not radiate as you come farther from the focal point, you there is some distance, right? That distance, and when you are planning, for example, if I'm planning, if I have a just imagine a circle and I'm planning major political or economical activities at the center of the circle, that is at the focal point, and at the rarer part I'm just trying to add along different sectors or for different typography of work. So what happens over the diameter or over the radius, as you pass away from the focal point, you're also losing the connectivity from the city core. So for example, if I am privileged, or not privileged would be a wrong word, if I am a person working of that of in a general assembly, or if I am that of if I am working at a higher class of housing, where I have the where I can afford that of the places near to that of the focal point, then I would be having the easy access to them. But imagine there is some industrialization, or you're trying to set all the upcoming projects, or for example, all the labors to the periphery of the circle. So then they would be losing the contact of the actual urban space. They would not have that level of interaction as much as the other sector of what is this people, or the other sectors of community gets to interact with the city, because of their work culture, or because the way they've been given that particular sector. For example, if agriculture is given towards the periphery of the circle, their activity would be almost limited, or would be circulating on the periphery, and they would be entering to the city, or city center, that is the center hub for markets or for political aspects, only for that of trading purpose. So their movement would only be for the trading, but they would not have actual contextual relation with that of the city. So in that way, circular kind of system kind of has little setbacks. But in terms of the overall movement, or in terms of the urban space movement, that is in terms of whether it is a vehicular movement, or whether you would want to have a larger overview of a street or something, this urban so not urban, the circular form of planning would give you a better viewpoint, or would give you a better outreach. Because in grid system, what happens is, it's basically like n number of boxes, or n number of squares and rectangles, which are aligned in different patterns and permutation and combination. So over there, there is always a dead end, or there is always corner junctions. So these corner junctions are also a point of interaction, as much as they're also a point of congestion for traffic, or for any kind of movement. So if I'm going in a grid laid kind of a cityscape, so my viewpoint would end at a point. or there would be some building or something that is blocking my view if I'm trying to view it in some perspective kind of frame. If I'm trying to capture my street view in a perspective frame, then it would end up with a building, or it would end up with a street corner. But in circular thing, it is slightly different. You would get a larger perimeter of for viewing your cityscape and circular kind of thing. And then in grid thing is another thing, and grid is advantages because it is more of a layout structure, and it is of there's some sort of connectivity or interconnectivity. There's if the space is designed better, like, that is those junction spots and the corner spots, if they're little more cautious in terms of designing them in terms of safety and in terms of space usage, then the space would be more or better approaching. For example, the junction spots or the corner spots, if they're not designed well, that would be like some dark spots or a shady space, which we would call on on a regular term. For example, if we need to go from a point A to point B, we have some, or example, if I would want to go from Banshankari to imagine Jainagar, or for Whitefield for that matter, there would be n number of routes. But among them, I would be selective and to the type of route I choose. There, I would not, I would necessarily, or I would wantedly not choose some street because of the corners, or because there are some shady spaces, because that particular junction would have just been left barren, or because of the safety issue. And that is one of the drawback in grid system, because as much as the corner spot is a good spot to improvise in terms of interaction, it is also a weak spot. So how you treat in terms of a sit on an urban level, how would you treat those junction would be the hardest part. And if that part is tackled, grid system would be more approaching. And because where at any point you go, whichever route you take, you would have some sort of connectivity. So you would end up linking with that of a sub lane or to the main lane of the street. So in terms of security, it is, in terms of movement, it is safe, but in terms of junctions, it is slightly not good if not designed well. Yeah, these were few points which I would wanted to throw in. Yeah, and one more thing related to that of women's or any gender in general, traveling is, how is it different? I would tell, as a woman, has she told, the safety issue, it does come in our mind. And also, though we would want to approach someone as openly as that of Matt, we may not be having that privilege to open up to that of people, because my intention would be very genuine, as I would definitely want to explore, I would want to know their story, or I would want to know the culture of that particular street or of that space. But there takes a lot of this uh, my personal checklist where I need to pass through in order to enter someone's house, or in order to let them know my actual story, or my to let them give my actual datas on a regular basis, because it's little harder for us to filter. So the number of filters for women would be slightly more to that compared to that of other genders, or even in terms of interaction, and or even in terms of choosing a place. I would have to pass through a lot of checklists, or I would pass through a lot of filters in terms of all availability, whether it is safe, or whether it is hygiene, or whether how the people are, because their level of the way they see, if the culture is different, if they're not open to different forms of dress codes, then my way of dressing would only create a disturbance for them, and it would create an alternative, or not alternative, it would create a back of kind of inherence to me, though. So it's like my everything matters. So my movement or my steps should be very cautious if I would want to step out and explore the way I want. but as one of the person mentioned, that is, I think, Samartha or something, that people would open up to you quite easily. That is something that I've also experienced to my thing. But even though if they're opening up to you, again you have to go through this process of checking that are they worthy enough, so that you can rely upon them. So that trust factor is something which we need to really stress about. More trust and safety matters a lot for us when if we have to travel anywhere. Yeah, these were a few points. I think I'm done with it.
I wanted to add something to the last speaker about Sudha Murthy. She wanted to work for the Adivasi, like prostitutes. She went there and they threw on her face tomatoes. And she very jokingly puts this that maybe at that time the tomato rates were low, so they used those to hit her. And when she went to her father, this Sudha Murthy went to her father and asked that she want to do something good for these prostitutes, these Devadasis. So her father gives a very beautiful suggestion on the dress code. That he says that if you want them to accept you, try to blend in their culture. It won't do if you go with a t-shirt and because Sudhamurthy went with a t-shirt and a jeans pant, and so her father said that better you blend in with them. Try sari, try this mallige hoop, try to be one among them. Then they may start to see your intention, why you are coming to them. And yeah, that I think that what to say advice what he gave to her also holds good for every one of us. If you want to do something, you want to connect to another person, uh, very strange, one stranger, it matters a lot. And so I thought I just got this one because the last speaker, I think they mentioned about Sudha Murthy. I've read a lot about her, and her work is immense, immense, and yeah, immense.
So some of you shared your experience about either going on a trail or going on a trek or to some new location. And Nikhil talked about walking around in the city and how. And I was thinking why it's such a special feeling and why is it so satisfying. And Matt answers this question when he meets the kids in the school, that we often walk as a modes of transportation, going from one place to the other, but very rarely do we walk just to enjoy our setting. And in Italy, there is a concept. It's not a complicated concept. It's a very simple thing called passeggiata. That every evening, people will go out of their home and for a stroll for no reason, just walk around the neighborhood or walk around the city plaza, something like that. And the idea of that is your personal time or that is your family time, that you disconnect from the rest of the world and you uh, focus on yourself. And and like Matt said, it's not just walking, it's walking and being observant of what is around you. If there's flowers, you look at those flowers and you stand and pay attention to those flowers, whereas if you're driving by in a car, you would not um, be able to appreciate the flowers in the same way. So yeah, I was thinking about that it's not just walking, but it's being conscious of our surroundings and understanding where these things come from and what is the value they add to our environment, that sort of thing. Don't have a question, just was voicing out a thought that came to my head when you guys were speaking. Mm,
I just had a thought here.
yes, please.
Listening to everyone, I just feel like it was good that um it was good that Matt was the protagonist of this documentary, because I feel when you choose a person with his background, you get to view the city in its simplest form. You don't have any added layers to it. So, in a way, you could observe the city at its quote unquote normalist um, situation of a city. If we had like say like a colored person or women doing it, we'd be more worried about the problems that they'd face. But if it was a white like a normal citizen of the US, then um, you could see the city at its simplest and at its most beautiful form, I guess.
Hmm. And one thing which I took back from the film the third time I watched it this morning, and I want to ask each and every one of you about this. That one thing I took away from the film this time around is a, is a part of the film where he says we are not promised any time on this earth, and that's why this mission was so important to him. I believe he went through a few life altering incidents. He had a accident. His brother went through something very serious, and I don't know whether that was the you know spark that ignited this mission, or whether it was always on his mind and he decided to finally do it. But yeah, it got me thinking. We always think of eternity, lifetime, and forever, but life is incredibly short, and uh, like he said, we are not promised any time on this earth. And that was a really humbling statement that I'll find very difficult to forget. So I wanted to hear from you guys about this. Kritik, do you want to go?
Um, to be honest, I have not had well, I have had maybe just one or maybe two, just like crazy moments like that, but they were mostly when I was alone. But uh, when you were saying that, what I was thinking was about it's kind of the reverse situation. I'm sorry to be a downer, but one of my dear friends, he wanted to become a pilot for a long time, and he was really focused about it. And I kind of used that case myself to with my parents. Oh, he's following his dreams, so can I. And when he took up a regular old computer science course, and that kind of really broke my heart. So it's like uh, um, instead of a life-changing event that forces you to uh, uh, a serious event in someone else's life that makes you reconsider what you're doing. I kind of had the opposite effect. I don't know why that came into my mind, but the discussion so far uh, has been kind of reflexive, and it kind of made me think about what has been going on with myself. So I guess that's why I was thinking about it. I don't know how relevant it is, though.
No, regardless of whether you've had, you know, real dangerous experiences or not, uh, it's something to think about that we take for granted that we very well may not exist next week. The life can be extremely random, and um, so it makes you wonder that we don't know how much time we have ahead of us. So what we do have is right now, and what are we doing with our current time right now? So,
well, at least with well, I'll take an attempt to. I'll take another stab at giving a response, but well, uh, personally, I've been always a little bit detached, and I tend to somewhat live in the present, like how it
Matt,
was mentioned in the yeah, like how Matt was reading. Just doing in the now, keeping the future vague, and that I have had definitely problems because of leading that kind of thought process, and but it's the one thing that kind of works for me, to be honest, and uh, focusing on the present. I mean, it kind of keeps your expectations. You don't waste your time daydreaming or thinking about this or that, and that was one moment where I felt, yeah, that's definitely me, and I relate to that.
Vishal, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Huh.
I have always felt that um, I think it's living in the present and all these philosophical ideas. Not that I don't agree with them, but I always feel that it's too romanticized. I think it should be rather to each his own. Everyone is here to do their own thing, and also people who are mundane actually they are the ones who keep the wheels going. If everyone was doing their own thing, there would be a lot of chaos. So I believe in kind of to each his own. I don't really ascribe to these ideas in the romantic notion that especially movies, the form in which movies bring them to us. I like the idea a lot, but I don't really believe in it as a form of living your life. Especially not the romanticized idea.
Not saying you have to give up your
No, not.
current
I'm
current
not.
life
It's
and
not about me, you, or anybody else.
no. I'm saying
What I'm saying is, I agree with the idea, but I do not agree with the romanticism that it's attached to. That's all I'm saying.
yeah. So let me bring some context to that. So it's not about giving up your profession and giving up your home to do what you want. That is possible for Matt, and credit to him, he pulled it off. I don't think many of us could pull it off, even if we tried. Maybe I'm just guessing, but at the same time, not saying you have to go to that level, but within your current domain, you must have some time to yourself. And what are you doing with that time for yourself that you kept off for later? That kind of thing.
What I'm saying is I agree with you, but my point is I do not agree with I do not agree with the romanticism that are attached to this idea or any. There are a lot of ideas which have romanticism attached to it. I'm not really a fan of it because at the end of the day, it has to be each his own. And also, the reason there is romanticism attached to it is because most of us are living mundane lives, and if people stop living those mundane lives, there would be a lot of chaos. So, idea से मेरे को कोई problem नहीं है. I am agreeing with the idea. I wish I lived it. I'm saying that we attach a
But
lot of
you
romanticism.
missed what I said. I said
No, I'm not missing you. You do not agree that I agree with you. I'm saying I'm not missing what you're saying. I agree with you.
no.
My
I'm saying
point is,
let them keep their mundane lives, but within you're not working 24 hours a day,
No, but
right? You're working
that's
8
my
hours in a
point.
day.
That's my point. Who are we to tell anybody what to do with their lives?
I'm not saying anybody should tell anybody. I'm asking
But you
them.
are saying that you have to take out time and do something.
No, I'm asking them,
saying
what are you
करना
doing with
चाहिए,
your
अच्छी
life?
बात है, but what I'm saying is कि
It's a question to everybody to answer subjectively, like what are you doing with
correct,
your life
correct.
within the time you have? I'm not saying you have to make a sacrifice to do what you really care about, but within the time you have, is there something that you could be doing that you aren't doing, or you are holding off for the future? And I think a lot of people are, including myself. And this documentary really makes you think whether you should, that why not make use of the time that you have right now within the constraints of your daily life. Of course, you go to your job, you go to your gym, you do everything. Maybe you have 1 hour per week towards what you care about, or maybe you have 5 hours per week towards what you care about. A lot of us are volunteering for this club, right, in separate aspects. So Nikhil is doing a lot, Sharanya, Brunda are doing a lot. So they're doing something they care about within the constraints of their daily life, that kind of thing.
I think we can agree that it's not a one size fits all approach. Some people just don't have the circumstances to go behind what they like. For example, I wanted to be a pilot, but then I have power since I was a kid. So I cannot do that. So I guess we cannot say that everyone has to pursue their dreams. For some people it's just not possible. So I think we can be okay with that. Maybe some of your wishes will come true, maybe some won't. And it's still valid. It's like absolutely okay.
Sure, of course. Guys, Nikhil is not here. Don't make me the moderator. Okay, if there's no other points, we can wrap up the meeting.
Yeah.
You guys have anything else to add?
No.